two sides to them, which was sort of the kindness side of it, which I think is really important as an athlete. You've got to be a good person first and foremost. And this thing I felt a part of where my disability didn't get in the way. I think I was surrounded by kids that were sort of normal, if you like. And when I played football, I just felt like I spoke about earlier, embracing it is a bit of a superpower. It's so sort of special to be unique. And
Hello, welcome to the Winners Mindset podcast. Sean, how are you?
I'm really good, thanks. Yeah, I'm sort of 3 weeks away from the World Cup, so it's all getting quite exciting at the moment.
That's really good to hear. For the viewers that may not know you, just explain a bit about yourself and what you do.
So I'm Sean Jackson. I'm 21. I play Amputee Football, which is a 7-a-side version of football for people who are amputees, and I play for England in Everton Amputee Football team. So yeah, I've been playing for just over 6 years now.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, what's really made me look at you and really made me really inspired by you is how you not let that kind of stay in the way of your dreams and your goals in your life. It's to play Amputee Football, and obviously for me, my speech doing this, and I saw your page, and it just it's really inspiring for people now, maybe younger people looking up to you, and that maybe have been in the same position as you. So it's really inspiring to see that. So I just want to ask you, what is your definition of a winner's mindset?
A winner's mindset for me is probably around that sort of relentlessness, sort of that constant sort of desire to want to be better and constantly improving. I think if you want to win, you've got to be open to change and wanting to develop yourself as much as you can. And yeah, it is for me. It's all around that sort of hunger and desire to win when you get out on the football pitch.
Yeah, for sure. When for you in your kind of a career, have you been involved in maybe like a winning team, or like a team that's went on and been successful with the England team you're with now, obviously in the World Cup?
So growing up, I was involved in quite a few sort of teams. I used to play on my prosthetic leg, and I was sort of around a successful team, and I represented the sort of centre of excellence of the Isle of Man, and that was sort of the highest level I thought I could get to before playing Amputee Football. I think, yeah, at the moment within England, we're quite a new, fresh team. There's quite a lot of sort of younger players, so we've maybe not experienced that sort of highs of being successful just yet. I think at the moment we're in that sort of building phase of getting experience and that kind of thing. So sort of teams previous to me that I've known players from that sort of get to European finals, sort of playing in front of 40,000 people. They're the sort of that's the sort of goal for me is reaching those sort of levels.
Yeah, for sure. What's your background like? Your upbringing then?
My upbringing, I'd say it's been sort of perfect for me. I've always had a really good family around me. I think as a kid growing up, I was sort of chucked into so many things where I could experience meeting different types of people, which I think has been massive for me. Sort of at the moment now, I'm within a team where you've got to understand people and you've got to get on with a lot of different types of people. So growing up, I was around sort of my grandparents quite a bit, and there was sort of two sides to them, which was sort of the kindness side of it, which I think is really important as an athlete. You've got to be a good person first and foremost, and second of all was sort of a set of grandparents that sort of taught me the value of hard work, and they were really hard workers throughout their whole life, sort of doing a lot of things just for the family kind of thing. So those sort of two values I think was really important for me growing up.
When did you know that you wanted to dedicate your life to football then, and your dream to be a player for football?
I think from quite an early age, it was the sort of the first thing I felt a part of where my disability didn't get in the way. I think I was surrounded by kids that were sort of normal, if you like. And when I played football, I just felt like any other lad kind of thing. So I was always keen on dedicating a lot of my time to football. Sort of sometimes it got in the way of school. But yeah, as soon as I found out about Amputee Football when I was 16, and that's when it sort of amplified and my levels went up, and I started learning around sort of what it took to play sort of at high levels, international level. And yeah, from sort of as soon as I found out I've got the opportunity to play for England, that's when I sort of dedicated as much as I could to sort of dream of playing for your country.
Because I think for me, like with my speech as a young boy, it was at times hard to kind of accept me for who I am at times, and I just want to know if, like, for you, was that ever like in your mind, was it ever kind of like, this is who I am, or were you at like a young age where you're a bit on edge about that?
I think similar to you, yeah, it's tough sort of growing up. Maybe I don't know if you had many people around you similar to you, but I grew up sort of only know sort of one or two other amputees that were sort of nearby type thing. And naturally when you're young, you sort of look around and you try find people that are similar. And but I think I was, like I say, football was a really good way of just people accepting me for who I was. And sort of my disability, everyone accepted it, and there was a lot of people sort of curious. And yeah, I think again, going back to my family, I think they were always supportive. My brother sort of always looked after me, kind of thing. So it was quite good to. Um, I always see it as being a positive, sort of to be different and unique, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Because I kind of look at that now, kind of like it's like a positive thing. So you use it as your kind of superpower. And I think that's kind of like a positive way to look at it. Was there an influence like for you that you kind of looked up to, that may have played amputee football or anything?
Definitely, yeah. So when I started Amputee Football, I was only 16. And I was born on the Isle of Man, so I grew up there. And I'd have to sort of fly over or get the boat across, so I'd need sort of a lot of people around me looking after me. So I started my journey at Manchester City Amputees. And yeah, there were supportive people around. Sort of Lee Dobson was a massive person for me in my sort of younger days. Dave Tweed, those sort of people that looked after me. As soon as I sort of got over, they would sort of put their arm around my shoulder. And yeah, that again, going back to that people sort of person, they looked after me first and foremost. And then when it got to being on the pitch, that's when they started to sort of educate me and try and get the best out of me.
Do you think the profile of amputee football has changed in recent years? Have you noticed it with media or anything like that?
Um, for me personally, obviously, since I've got involved, it's sort of only gone forward. I know sort of previous teams, they've had highs, but they've also had a lot of lows, sort of in terms of funding and that kind of thing. They've really struggled to sort of keep the sport alive in England. But for me, the profile wise, sort of in the past 6 years I've been involved, I've been on sort of numerous sort of media opportunities, if you like, sort of adverts and TV programs and interviews and that kind of thing, where people do want to find out more about the sport. I think there was an article sort of calling it the forgotten sport in England, kind of thing. So when people do sort of see the sport, they do get a little bit inspired and shocked that they've never seen it, because it is quite a unique and interesting sport to watch. I think people look at players being on crutches and just think it's going to be slow, boring, and quite yeah, boring to watch. So when they do watch it, I feel like people get addicted to it and want to find out more.
What would you say to a young boy now that may be in your position when you were younger, that may want to grow up and be like you? What would be your message?
My message was, for me, is just to be open as much as you can to learn. And I think sort of the good players around me growing up and where I am now, it's always those that are eager to learn want to sort of commit a lot of time to the sport and getting themselves better. I think, yeah, we've got quite a few values at England, and one of the sort of main ones is around hard work. It's tough because it's a sport that isn't massively funded, so it's sort of your hobby, if you like. So you've got to commit sort of. You might have your job at one side, and you might have family, but then the other part is you've got to work hard for the sport, and you've got to put the time and effort in, and then yeah, just enjoy it. I work with a lot of juniors, and I think enjoyment is such a key part to it when you're so young.
You mentioned a lack of funding a few times now. Do you think they should kind of get kind of like fund more into disability sports and help that kind of revolutionize a bit?
I think it would be lovely if they did. I think there are, at the moment as we speak, there's talks around sort of the FA getting involved with amputee football again, and yeah, you sort of see what's happened to the women's game and how big that's got. And I think maybe 10, 15 years ago, it was nowhere near sort of where it is now due to funding. So it's exciting to think what could happen if there was a little bit more. But at the same time, you've got to sort of accept that there's not a high demand for disability football at the moment. There's not that massive pool of players you can choose from, and it is constantly growing. So it's in a positive place at the moment. So it's exciting to see where it could go.
And you're the captain of the England team, right?
I'm the one of the vice captains, so we've got our sort of captain who's been around 20 years, sort of scored 100 goals, and yeah, I've got my opportunity twice this year to captain England, but that's only when they're not playing. So it's a future dream to be the sort of um, first captain, if you like.
How proud were you when you like wore the armband? Was it like wow, like look how far I've come, kind of thing?
100%. It was sort of looking back at the journey that I've sort of been on since I started amputee football. That was a bit of one of those pinch me moments, because I was massively shocked to see sort of walking into the change room, and you sort of see that armband next to your kit, and it's a really sort of powerful moment, and especially with it being against Turkey, who are the current European champions. It was sort of a really big step for me, and one of the sort of things I liked most about it was that team I was stood next to, that starting seven. And there were so many players that I've sort of gone on this sort of 6, 7 year journey from the junior program all the way up to the senior squad. So it was really good just to be stood next to sort of my mates, if you like, that I've been with for so long.
Was there any time in your life when you've been on this journey where you may have found it hard with maybe like a mental health problem with it, or you may have struggled mentally with yourself and kind of accepting yourself or something like that?
I think, yeah, naturally there's a lot of talk around mental health and that kind of thing, and I'd say I'm quite proactive in it. I've worked with two different psychologists. I'm really sort of fascinated, kind of thing. You hear a lot of things around how important the mindset is in sport, so I've always been open to learning more about that kind of thing. I think for me, if you like, one of the struggles has always been being away from home. I think I moved over here when I was 18, and just so I could concentrate and train as much as I could on the dream. So I've always been away from home for quite large amounts of times, and it is at times it gets to you, sort of not seeing family and that kind of thing. So I feel like that was one sort of struggle I had. But yeah, you just constantly being around the sort of England team there. If you like, my second family, they would call it the AFA family. So I think that's been quite powerful for me over the years when I've sometimes missed home massively. So that's been one for me.
Was playing for Manchester City like too?
Playing for City was just a class experience. Obviously, everyone knows the club. It was sort of worldwide, and for me, I was with them sort of since I started, and yeah, you do get that again, you get that buzz from being around the sort of academy stadium. You're training weekly inside their amazing sort of complex that they've got, and there are a lot of good players that we had. We were really fortunate, and a really committed coach that we had that was fantastic for the sport. And just to top it all off, sort of just maybe 3-4 months ago, we went to the Champions League, which is a sort of competition over sort of 3 or 4 days, competing obviously against the best teams in Europe, and we finished third overall, which was something we were really happy with. And yeah, just looking to keep sort of improving in any way we can, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And on the last bit here, how proud, like what is your message to other people with disabilities, now with any kind of disabilities that may feel like they can't really accept themselves for who they are? So what would be your message for them?
It is a tough one because I've sort of grown up my whole life being an amputee, so I wouldn't know what it's like sort of not being disabled, if you like. So I do sort of sympathise for those that have obviously been able-bodied and then had to make the transition to having a disability. But I think for me, it's all about that. What we spoke about earlier, embracing it is a bit of a superpower. It's so sort of special to be unique, and it is all about embracing it. I think for me, something that changed my sort of outlook on it all was surrounding myself with people similar to me. So if you're someone that maybe it's just you, and you maybe don't have a lot of role models or people similar to you, do your best to get around people similar, whether that's through sport or not. Just try and embrace it by learning from other people that have maybe been on a similar journey to you.
I'm sure, like, even I find when I speak to people that may stammer and stuff like that, I think it helps a lot more with me. And I think for people maybe just to be kind to people that may struggle with something, like we all find it hard with other things in life. We all have our own struggles, and me or you are very different, but we still struggle with something. So just to be kind to people is kind of the key message, and use that as your advantage, because that's who you are at the end of the day, and you can't change that. So we're going to go into just a quick fire questions now to end it off. So here's the first one. I just had them on my phone. Favorite moment you've had in Amputee Football?
Captain in England was easily the best moment for me. I think we've already spoke about how special it was.
Yeah, for sure. The biggest influence you've had in your life, so like a person. Obviously you mentioned your family before.
Yeah, it'd be tough to choose sort of one family member, but I think if we just look at from an England perspective, so many players, but the psychologist Tim Patton, he's been massive for me the past sort of 2-3 years. So I'd say him.
3 words that describe yourself.
Um, oh, I'd say committed.
Yeah.
I'd say I'm kind, and I'd say quite supportive.
For sure. Now that is the end off now. So I want to thank you, Sean, because you've been a fantastic guest. And I love kind of the way you've spoke about it, and been really open with it. So cheers for that, and thank you so much. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Just to also for me to reflect as well. It's obviously good to be a part of this kind of thing. So thanks for